George Harrison's comeback to the top of the music world was one of the great Beatles-related stories of the late 1980s. After years of seeming reluctance toward sustaining a music career, he rallied with the one-two punch of a hit solo record and the formation of the Traveling Wilburys. As the first single from his massively successful 1987 album, Cloud 9, albeit the record was titled Cloud 9 may be heard as a lover's plea. In actuality, though, Harrison was speaking to any and all listeners who had been moved by his music throughout the years. Since the reclusive George Harrison was the official moniker most people used to describe him about 1985, someone unaware of the difference would have assumed it was still the case. Back then, the ex-Beatle didn't appear very motivated to try to return to pop prominence. Harrison had avoided the limelight to the best of his ability ever since the initial burst of activity in the early 1970s, which followed the Beatles' split and included a couple of highly successful albums and even a tour. He continued to release recordings on occasion, but he did very little to market them. After that, in 1982, Gone Troppo came out, and in 1987, Cloud 9 came out, a span of 5 years. But behind the scenes, Harrison was preparing to make a public reappearance, enlisting the help of Jeff Lynne of ELO to produce Cloud 9. He may have had a fleeting preference for marketing his music, but he never grew tired of creating it. According to a passage from Timothy White's book, George Harrison, Reconsidered, the central theme of the lyrics of Cloud 9 was the process of making art for the audience to enjoy. For Cloud 9, I had these thoughts all along. You have God as your good side, and your human limits as your evil, according to what I read in a spiritual book. The world is being told, you can have my love, you can have my smiles, by those who can really make a living as musicians. Put the unpleasant bits out of your mind. The music and the goodness are all you need. I'm giving them to you freely, since they are the greatest. The sinister lead guitar work of Eric Clapton, Harrison's weeping slide guitar, and some powerful horns reminiscent of the George-penned Beatles' Savoy Truffle are the hallmarks of Cloud 9 and its sleek, sinewy packaging. Lyrically, he expresses his willingness to share his musical talent and inspiration with his audience in return for their support.